This is a story of how I took my knowledge from $0 to $10,000 in just 7 days. The first thing I did on day 1 of my challenge was to actually start brainstorming ideas for my new course. I had to actually do some primary outreach to my audience, which I've done over the last couple of years, so I know my audience really well. After actually understanding what it is that my audience wanted, what it is that I could teach them, and finding that intersection, day 2, I already had some really good feedback. In other words, I knew exactly what my audience wanted, which was learning how to make passive income. And I also had some really good ideas and personal experience in the passive income sector and niche. What was my first step? I went directly to teachable.com. It's a platform where you can essentially create courses, digital products, you can even create communities, and you can also host one-on-one private coaching sessions. And that's exactly where I started building my digital course. First, I started creating an outline of how my course should look like. So in other words, the introduction, would it be on PowerPoint? Would it be recorded? I kind of really thought about the logistics of how to develop my digital product so it's the highest quality for my audience. If you're just building out your own digital product, my biggest tip is just keeping it simple. You don't need to overcomplicate it. Don't add those bells and whistles, and don't spend hours and hours of your time perfecting the tiniest lines and graphics and all that. You don't need it. And the reason why is because the first thing you need to do is get your product launched. You want to see if your audience even likes your product. And you don't want to waste hundreds of hours or tens of hours of your precious time on a product that might not actually do well. If the product does turn out to be really good, people really like it, people leave great comments, and overall the product seems to be a success, that is exactly where you can start adding the bells and the whistles, the fancy graphics, and you can really build out your product to become something super fancy and actually increase the price by 200% or more, which is exactly the strategy what I've seen other successful digital product entrepreneurs have done in the past. But for right now, on day 2, my goal was to just keep it very simple, bare bone structure. The next step was really thinking about how I would deliver my course. Would my course be literally just a written outline and teachable, or would I try to add a little bit more flavor on top of it to kind of give people a range of educational experiences? That was the answer for my particular audience. So as an example, for my digital product in this particular 7-day challenge was number 1, using Teachable to create the course structure and the bare bone outline. Number 2, though, I also created a PowerPoint presentation that essentially put down the most important bullet points in the course itself. And then number 3, I created a Loom video. The Loom video not just recorded my screen, but also recorded my voice. I was talking over the screen. I was introducing different types of media. For example, I didn't just focus on my PowerPoint screen. I also focused on perhaps incorporating YouTube videos that was also recorded. I incorporated other types of websites, calculations, etc. So to really keep it mixed up and jumbled up to keep the audience's attention and make it interesting, right? Because that's the whole point. You want to make it interesting, whatever digital product you're going to sell. The next step was really figuring out the design. I mean, yes, you want to keep it simple, but at the same time, you don't just want to do text, because text bores people, and we want to make sure that when our audience signs up for our digital product, they actually enjoy the experience. Even though it is educational, you can make it fun through infographics. And that's exactly where I use Canva to zest it up a little bit. And finally, the last step is figuring out the price point. The price point is an area where you want to use an air of delicacy. And what I mean by that is that you might not always be right the second you put out your product and attach a price. In fact, you want to think about it in 2 ways. The first way is thinking of whether you want to have a low price point and for that sell it to a lot of people. The second option is thinking about whether you want a high price point and only make a few sales but still get a lot of income. For me, this course was a lot of work. So what I decided to do was increase the price point. I decided my price point was anywhere between $200 to $250. The first few days of when the course was launched, I offered a $50 discount for those early birds, and then anything thereafter, the price went up. That meant that yes, even though my course was more expensive, I actually only had to sell between 48 to 50 courses to actually make my target $10,000 in that 7-day time frame, which really wasn't too bad. Yes, my audience is typically above average on my social media platforms compared to other people. However, increasing your price point makes it an even playing field for people that maybe don't have hundreds of thousands of followers out there. And that's exactly why I prefer having a higher price point and having to sell to less people. And finally, once all of my videos and PowerPoint slides were complete, I uploaded them into my Teachable platform, which I was then ready to start preparing for the sale. And that moves us into day 4 of my challenge. Day 4 had nothing to do with actually building out the digital product. It had everything to do with creating a landing page. The landing page has 3 main purposes. First, it adds credibility to your name. The second most important item of a landing page is a call to action. You don't just want your prospective clients to go there and read about your digital product. You actually want them to act on the text in your landing page. And that's what a CTA, or a call to action, does. And there's a big purple button in my case, and it shares exactly what the audience member has to do in order to buy this course and change their lives forever. And finally, the third most important thing that a landing page does is essentially address objections, which is reasons why people might not actually buy the product, and then answer those objections. For example, an objection might be, hey, I don't have unlimited time in my life to actually build passive income streams, and the landing page would essentially say, hey, you actually only need an hour a week in order to learn and start implementing the suggestions in this digital product course to change your life. There are some things that you do want to include in a landing page. So for example, for mine, I included my background, in other words, my expertise and my credibility, what I did in the past to actually show proof. Number 2, I added testimonials, in other words, social proof from other people that I've worked with in the past on Twitter or as part of my clientele who share their experience with me. The third thing a landing page offers is oftentimes a sneak peek. In other words, you get a little brief peek into the course or into the product that you're selling. Now, the typical conversion rate on a landing page is 2%. So that means if 100 people go to your landing page, about 2 of them are going to buy. It does take a lot of time to brainstorm and build out a landing page. You really want to do this right, because this is the first thing your prospective clients are going to see before clicking that buy button. Day 5 was my social media day. I really wanted to create a big buzz about my digital product that I was about to release. Of course, it does help if you are known and if you are credible and if you're trusted in the community. But even if you're just starting out in social media, like on Twitter, on Instagram, or on TikTok, for example, or YouTube even, there is a really good chance if you keep building that trust by adding relevant and good content to your audience, people are going to buy from you. You don't need to have 1,000 followers or more in order to make $10,000 or even $1,000 from a digital product. If you sell your digital product at $250, all you need is 4 people to buy it and you make $1,000. What I developed was a social media strategy that really catered toward my Twitter audience. First, I wrote 4 to 5 super short, super easy to read tweets that promoted my digital product. The next thing I wanted to do was build a partner network. And that's what I did on Twitter specifically, because I wanted to reach out to people in the same niche that maybe have more followers or different followers than I do that would be willing to promote my tweet as well. With that, my exposure literally went from this much to this much by gaining about 5 to 10 new partners that were willing to promote my tweets. The second strategy I also implemented on Twitter specifically was plugging my digital product. Now, what I mean by plugging is if I had a tweet that was performing well, as in 100 likes or more, I added another tweet. So I essentially replied to that original tweet and put in a link to my landing page. A plug could read something like, if you really enjoyed this tweet, check out my latest digital course right here. And I put in the link. And that will actually drive quite a bit of traffic to your landing page and ultimately make conversions in sales down the road. The next thing I did on Twitter was actually researching my competitors. When you started looking at digital products to build, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. On Twitter or on your social media platform, it's time to figure out what your competitors are doing, specifically those who are successful in your niche, and then start taking inspiration from their tweets in my case. Because if it works for them, chances are it's gonna work for you too. And finally, I also engaged with my audience on Twitter and on Instagram. Algorithm on Twitter really likes it when you reply to your audience's comments and even in the DMs or the direct messages. So what I ended up doing was not only did I reply on comments to my tweets, but I also reached out to people in the direct messages, just kind of asking them what their biggest financial challenge is. I also used Instagram to promote my digital product. Of course, that means you need some pretty cool pictures. So again, I used Canva, and I also created a very short movie of like 10 seconds of me scrolling through the actual structure of the course on my Teachable platform. That kind of created a little bit of curiosity, and some people actually clicked on the link that I offered in that video on Instagram and they went to my landing page. And finally, the third thing that I used to create a lot of buzz for my particular digital product was my newsletter. Emails are actually one of the best places to sell, especially with the new Twitter algorithm. You can't really sell that well on Twitter. So how do you sell? You use your email. And especially as you build up your email audience over time, as long as you add value to your newsletter subscribers, then once in a while, you can absolutely promote products. For day 6, and I created 4 emails for day 7. Each of these emails, they addressed a pain point, they created a story around the pain point, and then they offered the solution. Emails also raised objections, like what if you don't have enough time? What if you don't have enough money? The emails also addressed those objections with valid answers, and they also provided testimonials and social proof of why my digital product will likely work. And that was scheduled, those 8 emails in total, to my email subscribers. Day 6 is where the hype officially begins. That's where the social media posts are released. That's where the newsletter posts are released. That's where I'm really engaging in the direct messages on Instagram, on Twitter. That's where it all comes together. Within 12 hours, my Twitter account got about 2 million impressions. Within 24 hours, it got about 8 million impressions, if not more. Not only that, but my newsletters also did really well. Whenever a subscriber replies to me, I directly reply back to them. And I want to know, like, what's going on in their mind? Do they enjoy the newsletter? Do they enjoy the product that I'm promoting in my newsletter? I really want to get to know my audience member. And the newsletters themselves, they have about between 200 to 300 words. It's a story. It tries to evoke emotion, right? And it really does try to drive home the point of why my digital product is going to help. By day 6, I had made about $8,000. That meant I had made just about 30 sales. But I didn't need to sell to thousands or hundreds of people. I just needed to sell to 30 engaged customers, because you don't need a lot of followers. All you need is engaged followers. And that's exactly what I was able to manage on day 6. Day 7 was the last day of the challenge, and I was really hoping I could crack that $10,000 number. To be fair, day 6 definitely raked in a lot of money. It's also the newest day. It's when something is introduced, a new product, it's shiny, it's exciting, and people want it. Of course, it does make sense that on day 1, you'll make a lot of sales. So advertise that my sale was ending that night. And believe it or not, people are pretty lazy, right? We all like to procrastinate one way or another. And if you hear that a sale is ending tonight in 12 hours or however long it is, you're probably gonna buy that product under pressure more so than when it was originally released. So there is a chance of you getting more sales just before the sale ends. And that's exactly what I started to do with my marketing strategy in my social media as well as my newsletters. Day 7, I actually made just under $4,000. So I did crack the $10,000 marker, which was incredible, and 100% of the profit was mine. I didn't have to share it. I didn't have to pay off a part of a product purchase or anything like that, because literally my digital product came from me, and I didn't have to buy something and then resell it like with drop shipping or anything like that. Your digital product or digital course is 100% profit, minus maybe what you have to pay for Teachable or Canva, which are typically pretty low costs. Personally speaking, on day 7, I really didn't see too much movement on the first, I'd say 12 hours, but I did have those 4 scheduled emails going out. And the very last email went out at 11 p.m., essentially advertising that only 1 hour was left of this particular sale. And it was during that last 1 hour when the remaining sales came in. As you can see, it's absolutely possible to make $10,000 or more in just 7 days and essentially keep 100% of the revenue as profit. It's completely possible, but let me tell you, it does take a lot of work. And I also want to say, don't expect every digital product to work out like it did for me, even if you do follow these same exact steps that I did. It is very hard. Sometimes it does come down to luck, but if it doesn't work out for you the first time, then keep going and remember to be consistent, because ultimately, if you keep staying in the game, at some point you're bound to win. Now, if you're struggling to go viral on social media like on Twitter, make sure you leave a comment below and I'll definitely see what I can do to help. And if you want to learn how to make thousands of dollars per month, make sure you join my private Wealth Suite community. The link is below in the description box, where I'll be sharing daily tips on how to build wealth, make more money, and essentially build a long-term legacy.